to Season 2, Episode 7 of the Bithell Games Podcast. I'm Alexander Slawinski.
And I'm Mike Bithell.
Each week we talk games, what it's like to make games, and the random stuff we don't find time to talk about because we are playing and or making games. Show notes, as you can probably tell from my voice, not doing so well. What's the best way to make me better? By providing healthcare. How do you provide healthcare? By buying our games. Thanks. What are you playing, Mike?
What am I playing right now? I'm playing a lot of Horizon because I've basically been taking a week off, so I've been playing a lot of Horizon all the time. You have as well, right?
Yeah, no. When I find time to crawl out of my cave of blankets and soup slurping, I do enjoy my Aloy time. I keep calling her Alloy.
That's in your defense.
Yeah.
That's an intentional choice on the part of the writer that you didn't sign up for. That's fine. She's played really well. I mean, I think Ashley's performance is brilliant.
She does a really good job, and it's
friend of the show, Ashley.
Yeah, Ashley Birch, friend of the show. No, it is super weird getting to that point in my life where the people that I knew at the beginning of my career and were getting started at the same time are now starting to, be in executive positions or starring roles in AAA video games. And
given how well this game's going, presumably a franchise, right? Like, presumably that's now...
Ashley's set.
A big role for her.
Yeah, no, she good. Ashley's good from this point forward. But yeah, it is really, so there is a part of me that is separating the actress from the character. But yes, the character of Aloy is doing a really good job, especially since that game is massive.
It's crazy big. And it's also very content rich in a way that I think a lot of people are comparing it to the Far Cry games. I think there's a lot of stuff, a lot of overlap there. I mean, I love the Far Cry games, so that's fine. But it's also I think doing really great quest design and really great content. Like, I'm enjoying even the side quests have, variety of gameplay, not just, interesting cutscenes, but like, I'm doing interesting things that are different in each quest, which feels just feels deep. See, I think this is the buzz. I've also been playing a little bit of Zelda as well. I think this is the big trend now, is open world games have worked out how to build these big worlds and build up this content. Now we're getting kind of that depth coming back. So we're seeing the kind of the crazy level of depth in Zelda, where if you're wearing metal armor and it's a storm, then you're going to get hit by lightning. Those kind of brilliant interactions that make a game feel rich and magical.
Is that a thing in the game?
Totally, yeah.
Oh wow.
And when fighting enemy, the first time you're fighting an enemy and you knock a weapon out of their hand and their buddy grabs it and starts hitting you with their awesome weapon, like, you're like, that's not how Zelda should play. Zelda's simpler than this. There's some really great... The AI is, in general, really clever in terms of how they throw grenades at you and how they do stuff. Like, there's a lot of very neat stuff there. Like, and it's... I think the thing with... I've moved on to talking about Zelda, but it's true of Horizon as well. The thing with both games is they're not... I wouldn't say either of them is doing stuff that's revolutionary, but they're just piling on so much detail that in open world games, at least, it's just, you don't see it, and it's lovely. And it feels with Horizon, it feels like I'm playing a light RPG open world Uncharted game on a lot of levels, like the level of depth that they've actually managed to achieve. So
and it's a new type of world to explore as well, which is,
it is, and it's brilliant.
Yeah, like certainly different from the Far Cry, because Far Cry takes place in the real world, so you're looking for it. But the number of things in Horizon where I'm like, oh, that's really clever. Or just mentioning the AI for a second. One of the things that I completely accept that this should not have been as surprising to me, but it totally was that the AI leads the shot. I'm so used to just rolling, and the AI will look where I just was instead of where I'm going. And yeah, it's stuff like, it's really simple things like that. That's just like, oh, good on that. I guess I have to learn to play differently.
And I get in trouble on the internet because I often am the guy who says, well, none of these constituent parts are that tough to do, but together I've said that. I remember saying that about Shadow of Mordor's Nemesis system, and just like genuinely, like, gamers got annoyed because they're like, no, but it's really awesome, and you've never made anything that bloody complex, so what are you talking about, kind of thing. And you know what, that's a valid kind of criticism. When I say that, and when we say, like, oh, that's really simple or something, I hope people understand that's the biggest compliment you can get from a designer. A good, clean solution to a problem, even if simple, that's the good shit. That's the stuff that I'm impressed by. Like, throwing ridiculous, messy, complex systems at me doesn't impress me. When you achieve something succinctly in a design, that's when you've made the Mini Cooper. That's when you've made a Spitfire. That's when you made the an Apple Mac. Those are the big moments, which are just impressive.
Design isn't about what you can add on; it's about what you can take away.
It's very deep.
I mean, other stuff in Horizon, just the scale. So I am not. So the good thing here is that I'm not that far in. So congratulations. Everything I'm about to say is definitely not a spoiler for anyone who's played like less than 10 hours of the game. I don't know the big stuff that comes later, but just one of the things, like the saucer giraffes, the first time, sure. I like that you meet one of those really early on, and it's imposing.
Yeah.
The first time you see.
Well, they're called long necks, right? The saucer giraffes, something like that. Well, the scale discrepancy, like, that's what's really cool, because that's the stuff that genuinely is super hard. Like, making enemies that, like, there's a reason most enemies in video games are human size. It's because it's much easier to design that combat, and also to make, like, nav meshes work for same size characters, things like that.
Well, that's the thing. Like, we've talked about, like, what is it called? Poly budgets. Like, we've talked about poly budgets on the show before. And it's just, when I come across something that massive, just filling the screen and everything, I start going, God, I really want to call up Bithell and talk to him about, like,
it's cool. They'll be using lower poly. I guarantee the long necks, or whatever they're called, they'll or tall, I think tall something, I can't remember.
Saucer
giraffes. I like that. But, like, yeah, no, they'll be clever with that stuff.
Jossers.
But actually, it's a really interesting thing that I think they've done very well and it's something that, honestly, I think I forget the name of Guerrilla's art director, but I think it's the same guy's been doing this for a long time, and it's something Killzone gets right as well, as they're very good at contrast of detail. So with this game in particular, the idea of combining very picturesque natural environments, very kind of the wilds, right, the kind of untouched by man kind of environments. You get some ruins, and later on you get some very cool architecture and stuff, but largely, like, these kind of big natural environments, and then putting, like, really gnarly, super detailed monsters in those worlds. It's just nice. It's a really brave choice, kind of aesthetically, but it works. And it's very clever. It's something that I think I'm sure was part of the initial kind of process. Is it's very much the game you make for a kid who grew up with Dinobots and Zoids and Power Rangers and Dino Riders, and is now, mid-30s, and and wants a kind of a more grown-up version of that. It feels designed for that generation who had lots of robot dinosaurs and that stuff in the 80s. It feels like it feels like a Saturday morning cartoon with A-levels. It feels like it's building on that stuff and doing it really well.
It's also that Jurassic Park game that we can never get.
Why don't we get a Jurassic Park game?
Because for exactly this reason.
Fair.
Because Jurassic Park would get in the way. No, but Jurassic Park would get in the way of itself. Jurassic Park would get in the way of the dinosaurs.
No, if Nedry's turned off the raptor fences, I still want my Jurassic Park open world game. I think, given the success of Jurassic World, I might get it one day. I want to explore Jurassic Park and then have it all go wrong and then have to use those environments. But yeah, I agree with you. Like, and I think so much of this is playing into that fantasy. Like the Watchers, like they're the Velociraptors. Like, especially, have you gotten to a cauldron yet?
I actually had to reload a previous save because I accidentally ended up in a cauldron,
and you weren't ready.
I was in no way prepared for what happened next.
So when you're being hunted through a cauldron by those things, like, it's just awesome. It is the kitchen scene from Jurassic Park. Like, there's just so much stuff like that. And then, you know, the way the animals move, the way they've played into that. But also, I think it's really neat. It was something I remember seeing in, like, if not the first reveal, but, like, you know, very early on with Horizon. I think we might have been in the room, right, with the Horizon reveal at E3. I think that might have been the first time. But the specifically...
Oh, yeah, we were set up right next to them.
Well, how the enemies... Yeah, we were, weren't we? How the enemies were... That's why we couldn't get into the room as quickly as we wanted to. How the enemies, like, have, like, pieces you can shoot off and subsystems that you can use, and kind of their weaknesses. Basically taking that kind of old, boring video game trope of the glowy, sensitive part and actually doing some damn game design and working out how to make that interesting and make that so each enemy almost becomes a different kind of spatial tactical choice as well. Of like, am I going to try and shoot that thing that's slightly harder to get? Am I going to use the right kind of arrow so that it does the effect I wanted to do? You know, all of this stuff, like, they took that stuff seriously, and it's great to see that.
I just came across my first Sniper Panther and just got wrecked. But it's like
the stealthy thing, right? The Predator one, yeah.
But it's just like, no, you gotta knock
Predator,
off.
right? Another 80s fantasy of my generation of teenagers.
Yeah,
I think it's very smartly made for that group. And I'm interested where it goes. It's actually compelling.
Are you saying it's going to get a sequel? Now let's calm down.
Will this massively
Bithell.
successful first-party game from Guerrilla get a sequel? I think there's a chance, right? There's a chance. Yeah, no. Shu DM'd me yesterday, so no. I think
like, if we got 18 kill zones, we're gonna get like 36 Horizons.
Because the audience have reacted well to it. Like, I think as well, like, the storytelling, it's very much, I think this is the right focus, very much focused on the world building more than anything else, and the kind of what's this environment. But there's also a bit of mystery in there. There's a nice, really succinct narrative of, at least at the point I'm at, where it's like, I am going to this place to find this person. And that's the right kind of small. That's the right kind of scale for a narrative, for a game like this, where you're going to get, you know, knocked off course by side quests and things. I love how the character always seems really annoyed when someone gives her a dumb side quest. I'm not sure how I'll feel about that 50 hours in, but right now, like, that's
well, it's funny because a lot of people do bring up Far Cry, and I will agree to that in terms of the map, and we'll get to the map in a second because the map is another thing we have to talk about in this game. But yes, I understand where that is, but wow, there's a lot of Witcher lessons in there. There are as well. Like,
and I think in both directions. I think there's things they've taken from The Witcher, but I think there's also things that they've invented solutions to problems that players like me had with The Witcher.
Yep.
So what do you think the key stuff they've taken from The Witcher is? Because you're more knowledgeable about The Witcher than I am.
Oof. You know, the problem is it's the light bulb being invented in two places at the same time thing. Like, there are things that I would like to point out, but for all I know, like, they were working on it at the same time, because these,
very possibly,
it takes years, right? So
no, games journalists have told me that Shadow of Mordor should have been cloned 5 times by now. Like, I've had that argument on Twitter at least 3 times now. It's like,
stop it.
That's not how long open world games take to make.
In respect to our audience, open world games take a
very, very long time. You're right, and that's a good point. I think, I mean, if I was to give an example of the opposite side, like, for me, the crafting system is so much nicer to a player like me who doesn't want to learn a million recipes and all that RPG complexity. Like, the crafting system is straight out of Far Cry, right? Like, there's and that stuff works so well and simplifies things, and how you do the inventory in game. Like, I am never more than a few clicks away from a health potion. In The Witcher, I was constantly confused as to where my health potions were and how to get to them and how to add them to my inventory and all that stuff. That stuff is streamlined to such a degree that I'd argue that Horizon actually isn't an RPG anymore. I would argue Horizon actually is simplified to the extent that it's got RPG elements rather than being an RPG, and I'm fine with that as a player.
And I'm not sure if it's Super Bunny Hop or Mark Brown's Game Maker's Toolkit talking about the NPC giving you a direction, but like turning off the... Oh, that's another thing for sure. Change if you're looking for a more streamlined experience but still want everything there, change your HUD to custom. It takes away just enough that it's not filling your screen with...
Or be me and keep everything on there.
Right. Or be Mike and keep everything. I mean, there's
I follow that yellow diamond wherever it leads.
But that's the thing, is like, I would definitely recommend, if you haven't started playing Horizon yet, like, certainly take a moment to look at your HUD options, because you can pretty much turn off the HUD for the most part. And I think, and I haven't tested this myself really, so on some level I should be bringing it up, but here we are, the NPCs give you a direction and give you some landmarks so that you could theoretically shut off your HUD and still find the thing that you're looking for in the environment. And I know that's sort of been a weird criticism that's popped up here and there regarding these open world games, where it used to be you could completely shut off the HUD and the NPC would give you very clear directions on where you needed to go. Whereas I think it is it The Witcher? There's games recently that are like, yeah, go over here, but if you have your HUD shut off and you don't have the diamond pointing exactly where you need to go, there's no way you could logically assume the player would be able to find it.
I can respect the point of view that, you know, people want to have a slightly looser experience. For me, I'm always in a rush to get to the next cool thing. I get frustrated. Well, Alexander, you know this from being at events with me, right? How many times at GDC did I ask you what meetings we had coming up? Right?
Yeah, every couple seconds.
I'm that guy. I need to always, and that's why for me the kind of the fashion for like a proliferation of HUD information and maps and pointers and tell me how many meters away the marker is, like, that stuff is super. It's what I like, but I totally see the other side of it of kind of, no, I want to be a bit looser. It's actually one of my fears with the hour I spent with Zelda is I think Zelda's more in the kind of find your adventure kind of approach, and I'm worried that might frustrate me. But we're going to see. I'm going to save that one for the next.
Well, that's also the difference between Minecraft and Dragon Age Builders for me, right? Where, sorry, not Dragon Age Builders, Dragon Quest Builders.
You can't just invent games you want to play, Alexander.
Sorry, and I really do want to play that. Let's call up the Bioware guys. But Dragon Quest Builders is here is, hello, adult, here's the direction that you need to go do your things. We recognize that you only have a limited amount of time for your play
and that's
sessions.
It for me. Is I have an hour probably a day to play video games. I sometimes I'm definitely giving myself more time than that right now because I'm having my little break. But yeah, I need to get to the fun. And that and that's a different way of playing games. But I respect the other side as well. I totally get why players want that experience.
So I'm sure we're going to bring up Horizon several more times over the coming weeks and months. But the thing I want to close this section off with today is that map. That map, though.
It's a pretty map. The 3D map.
So I'm giving you your nerdy moment to explain how that very detailed map has that 3D effect going with it that just makes it look cool.
I can guess. I mean, I can't. Obviously, I didn't make it, so I don't know exactly. No, the key thing there, and it's something. I mean, I immediately chatted with you on Skype about it after I'd seen it for the first time. But like, one of the really, if you've ever like done video capture, anyone listening to this who's ever kind of done streaming or Let's Plays, you'll see when you go to a menu, the frame rate goes through the roof because menus are really easy to render. You're not rendering like an entire scene. a pause screen where the game's still like in the background, yeah, that takes a lot of render. But even then, like if it's a freeze frame, you can just take that image once and just keep redrawing that on the screen. So not in gameplay, you have all of this performance, all of this frame time you can use for something, and therefore, a lot of menus I think are starting to make use of that and go, well, we can render loads on the screen during a menu. What can we use that for? And some people use that for, putting a cool smoky video in the background or doing whatever. But no, this game...
That cognitive dissonance of Geralt being 30 frames per second in the game, but 60 frames per second on the menu.
Yeah, exactly.
Or 90 frames per second on the menu.
Well, because they can, because you're just rendering Geralt at that point, right? You're not rendering the rolling fields behind him.
But from a player standpoint, I'm always curious if developers recognize like the cognitive dissonance of having like that difference going on.
Yeah, no, I that's why I'm a big fan of I will take a stable frame rate over a occasionally high frame rate any day of the week, because your eye gets used to a frame rate, so not having different changes is good. But yeah, so for the map in Horizon, they basically have what looks like the same kind of painted high detail image you've seen on every other game, but the second you start scrolling around, you realize actually you're looking at something 3D. It's not super technically difficult. Basically, my understanding of it is that it's just a low poly 3D mesh with an image texture just applied to it. Because it gets boring, but basically it's I would assume just a simple top-down UV'd texture, which isn't expensive to do, but you can go super high res, because if you're only rendering one texture, then you can chuck pixels at it, so you get this very rich, detailed image that looks like a nice painting, like you'd have in kind of a Far Cry game or whatever. And because of the way the game highlights where animals are and where bases are, the map looks very Far Cry anyway. But then as you pan around, you get that little bit of parallax going on where mountains are visibly kind of have some 3D depth to them. Yeah. So it's nice. It's one of those things where you're just like, wow, that's honestly, for me, it's something I look at and go, okay, well, every AAA game's map is going to look like that in 2 years.
Like the Nemesis system.
Well, no, the Nemesis system, you have to start from scratch. That takes a little bit longer. But
come on, man.
Get it done in a week, right? No, Nemesis system is too integral. So Nemesis system is still a couple of years away from that finding its way into lots of other games. But this one, I guarantee any AAA open world game that's more than a year out from release, because they lock down shit pretty far out with an open world game, because you've got a lot of QA to do. But like, anyone who's got the time, creative directors will be going to their team and going, our 2D map looks a bit crap compared to Horizon's. Can we chuck that 3D goodness in? So I think that will be a thing. But it's just really nice, and it's honestly it speaks to exactly what I'm talking about in terms of the quests and the gameplay. There is more depth than there had to be in every area of the game. There is a polish which puts, I think this is a trend we're seeing in games now across the board. It's not polish in terms of let's add 5 more cutscenes. It's polish in terms of let's go into the experience the player's having and enrich that. That's the point of the game, and that's a really cool moment to be in, because that's how you actually make games better, rather than just adding 5 more cutscenes, or let's make the main character's hair look cooler. I feel like so many of those problems, especially in the AAA space, have been solved. Horizon looks beautiful, but it looks beautiful in the same way as a fair few games have looked beautiful. You know what I mean? Like, so they're instead their differentiating polish is in the gameplay, is in those interactions, is in making your damn map screen 3D.
Now it's time for what's going on at the studio. What's going on at the studio is convention crud prevention.
Convention crud prevention.
Yeah, I like that. I think
it's a shame CCP's already taken.
I know, right? Trademark. I think we assume that everyone who listens to the show is a veteran of the convention scene.
I don't make that assumption.
And well, good for you, because that's what we're going to talk about. Just taking a moment here for self-care and giving those folks who haven't gone to a convention yet ways to because you will get sick is essentially like there is there is so much handshaking going on that plague.
It's a bunch of people from all over the world who dare I say, do not spend a lot of time around large groups of people, often going into a room with hundreds, if not thousands of people. Yeah. We all have awful immune systems because we've been working. Everyone's been rushing to get their game finished for the demonstrations they're doing or whatever. Never ends well.
So yeah, it's, I'm sure at some point in the next several years, like some virologist will just use like these conventions as a test bed for things, if they haven't already, for all I know. But yeah, let's take a moment here to go through some of the things that we sort of learned. Now, you took the incredibly bold and brave approach of basically just telling people you were sick and not shaking their hand.
And I wasn't lying. So I arrived and I got sick. I mean, for the first couple of days, we thought it was jet lag, didn't we? I remember I was very apologetic, like, oh God, the jet lag's really kicking me this time, kind of thing. And then was about day 3, realized, no, Mike's really sick. And I got worse and worse over the course of DICE till at the end of DICE, I spent 2 days just in my hotel room trying to get better and failing. We just told everyone I was sick. I didn't shake hands because I didn't want to be patient zero, though I think I did get a lot of people sick. I think possibly I was patient zero.
Well, no, you definitely got me sick.
You definitely caught what I had.
Yeah.
But
I mean, that, for some, this is where it starts getting to really awkward territory. For some folks, they don't really have that option of being like, no, I'm not going to I'm not going to shake your hand, right? Like they don't necessarily have that. So being full Purelled, like having
hand sanitizer is, I mean, this is every year someone asks me like for an interview or something or a tips, like what's your biggest tip for GDC? And it's always hand sanitizer in your pocket before you shake anyone's hand, after you shake anyone's hand. My trick when I am shaking hands at events is I always have the hand sanitizer, because it kind of come across as rude if you shake someone's hand and immediately like douse your hands in. So what I do is I always shake people's hands and then I offer them, oh, would you like some hand sanitizer? And we take a moment to share the hand sanitizer. It's very friendly and polite, and no one feels weird. So that's my tip is be the person offering hand sanitizer to everyone. Because then you're not the person who's creepily cleaning their hands after every handshake. And from a professional standpoint, from a business standpoint, I think that is really the best. Like, just think of when you go to the doctor and they take that Purell hit like before they touch you, they take that Purell hit after they touch you. Like I don't know what the protocol is in the UK yet. I'm also looking forward to my first doctor bill in the UK. But you're going to be looking forward to about what, like 3 years, you think? Current state of British politics, I think you'll be getting your doctor's bill in about 4 or 5 years' time, I would have thought.
But I don't know what the protocols are in other countries, but I mean in certainly in the hospitals I go to in the States, like they will hit that Purell like as they walk into the room, they will hit that Purell as they walk out of the room. There is just this constant and that is the policy. I think that is best for any type of convention. So if you've never been to a convention and you're trying to just have, I don't know, if you can make a Purell pool like in your pockets of your jacket.
What? That's terrible advice. There are great just appear to every meeting just like greased from head to toe in Purell, just like a gleaming. There's little travel ones you can get and stuff which are great, but
but it has to be habit form. Like you have to make it a habit but
I think as well the other key bit of advice is even doing all of that, you're still going to get sick. So my advice is also like allow some time after the event, give yourself the week after an event like GDC off if you can get. I mean, I think it's definitely our policy, like we just take time off after events, because you will probably be slightly sick, and even if you're not, you're going to have been massively overworked and underslept, probably been drinking and eating too much for a week or two. So taking a week to just kind of recover and planning for that, knowing that probably you're going to feel a bit crap after GDC, giving yourself some time, that's the other side of it.
But genuinely, for years, especially since working at home, and it is like you said, we don't have as much human contact as we would if
you're not being exposed to everything all the time.
Yeah, like we're not on the tube every day. We're not like, doing all that stuff. But yeah, planning that weekend after any convention that you just don't do anything, probably solid. Now, the other thing that Mike brings up that is also an interesting thing, which I'd like to play around with, is the idea of drinking at these events. And
it's a terrible idea.
It is horrible, but I understand that there are the social pressures, much like the whole handshaking thing.
And people want to party, right? You're seeing friends you've not seen for a while. People want to have fun,
right? So if you're not feeling up to it, or if you truly, truly, truly want to make sure that you don't get sick afterwards, I strongly encourage seltzer with lime. Looks like a lovely cocktail, but it's not. Getting a Coke and then just having a lime put onto it, or a lemon, looks like a lovely if you're concerned about social pressures, there are ways to make your drink look like you're partying and everything like that, but you're just enjoying a nice soft drink, a nice. And
it's beverage. It's also A, it's health, obviously. B, it's being able to get proper night's sleep and stuff. But C, like, the kind of drunk you are. That's one of those moments of introspection, right? Like, anyone listening to this, they know what they're like when they've had a few drinks. Do you want to be that person in front of your peers and potential future employers, future collaborators, future employees?
This is where I also say, everyone talks, so don't think you're going to get away with it.
Everyone talks. The industry's tiny, and just like, and it's, when I think about like the times I've embarrassed myself, like the times I've said something stupid to someone or looked a bit foolish, alcohol was always involved. I'm a dumb drunk. I say stupid stuff when I'm drunk. So I don't do it. If I'm in a scenario where I'm around peers and colleagues, I'll have a drink, but then, like you say, like, I'm totally the glass of Coke guy. That's my quiet one. And even like getting it in a smaller glass, so it looks like it's been done with a shot, so you've got
that's the other thing too, is that
don't walk around with a pint of Coke. That's very obvious.
Yeah, there's obviously, when you go to these events, there are also different cultures that you're dealing with, and in some of those cultures, it's like, oh, let me go get you a drink. What are you having? Like, if you're trying to avoid that entire topic, like, go like ask them to get you the alcoholic drink, and then take some of the best lessons from Coyote Ugly, a fantastic
wow
movie.
Massive overlap, I imagine, between people who listen to the podcast and fans of Coyote Ugly. That's
but there's a lot of lessons in Coyote Ugly of like how to get rid of that drink without like to be able to move on with your evening and not consume the 4 or 5 or 6 or multiple beverages that your colleagues will be getting for you over the course of an evening. So that's what this topic was about. It's about preventing convention crud, which I failed at miserably. But yeah, it's hand sanitizer, sobriety, and just making sure that you're taking care of yourself, because these events are like, no matter what these events are marathons where you are up early, you are getting home late, you are not getting the proper amount of sleep, you are eating not great food. Even if you're eating out, you're still not eating properly. It's a week, and if your body isn't used to being around lots and lots of people, good luck on getting out of that one.
1, 2, 3. I wanna thank you for reading Freedom Mail again. Thank you for reading Freedom Mail again.
Hi, Alexander and Mike. After final release of your game, how much time do you need to get rest and get motivation to start development on a new game? When you're resting, I knew you were going to start laughing before I even finished this. Let me finish it.
Carry on.
When you're resting after final release of your game, now I'm laughing. Do you completely cut yourself off from game development, or do you still continue to do something for your game, but in a more relaxed and less intense way? Best regards, our good old friend, Andre.
So I'm terrible, aren't I? Our work-life balance is not one of my skills.
We're both terrible. Like, this is, I mean, we're too early on. But you know, it's not just an us problem. Like, if we had 10 employees, right, that, you know, needed to be taken care of, what time in between? Like, we need to be getting on to the next project. And
yeah, I think for to answer the question directly, like, usually I manage usually a week. I can usually go a week without producing something. I came back from GDC and DICE, and we had a very successful GDC and DICE, and I said to my girlfriend, I'm going to take 2 weeks off, and she laughed at me and said, you'll manage 4 days, and she's wrong. I managed 5 days.
You showed her.
I showed her. I really enjoy my job. And also, like, the most exciting part of making a game is the start. So that's why game jams are so popular. So after you've been in that slog,
before you get bogged down with the details and the work.
Yeah, so you can so I often will jump very quickly into another thing when the time comes.
Yeah, I'm just taking a moment here to think it through. I think the longest break you've taken is after Volume, when we shipped you off to Disneyland or Disney World.
Yes, and that's the thing, is if you give me an activity, I'm a child. If you give me an activity, that will keep me occupied. But that's very true. Like, if I have an activity, if I have something to keep me busy, then I'm fine. It's when I'm I need constant, like, input, and I really like, and that's actually, it's something I try and do. Like, so, like, the last, like, day off me and Kerry took was, we went to the Tower of London for the day, and I spent a whole day learning stuff. I consume information. I'm not very good at doing nothing.
Well, I think the other problem with sending a game designer to something like Disney World, because game designers love Disney World.
Well, that's because it's the best video game ever made.
Correct. Yeah. Like, that's, and I mean, the number of things you came back from that place, like, talking about the systems and the designs and all that stuff, was just like, we bought, me and John Romero bought a table at an event where me and him had just been to Disney World, so we were just going on and on and on, and just, I think, irritating the hell out of everyone else. But I think he does tours. I think John actually, like, takes young junior designers to Disney World to kind of show them around, and he's a bigger fan than I am. But yeah, designers like Disney World, I guess. Yeah. Oh, I want to do a John Romero Disney World tour. How do I sign up for that?
You gotta get cool. I think.
Oh. No, I do wonder what you'd be like if we just sent you to, like, you know, a lovely beach where, like, they bring you drinks with little umbrellas in them.
I can't do it. I can't. I would immediately be trying to find where the local museum was. I had this scenario because we went to a friend's wedding in Dubrovnik, and yeah,
also known as King's Landing.
Well, exactly, right? So within half a day, I was like, right, I'm going to go check out some of those sets and find some of those historical buildings and stuff. I don't do switching off. And I don't say it to try and sound, you know, interesting or clever. I need activity. You're kind of the same though, right? You get bored very easily, right?
Yeah, no, that's, and I'm, you know, obviously I'm trying to be, especially as I get older, I'm trying to be better about it, where it, you know, I should be taking weekends, and I should be taking vacation. And then of course we start running into cultural issues because, you know, I'm not, you know, I do not come from a culture where, like, yeah, we have 6 weeks of vacation. Like, that's, you know, like, you know, you're lucky if you get 2 weeks of vacation at the start of your career, and you have to be at a place for like 10 years before you even get 4 weeks of vacation.
Jeez.
So there's a complication in that. But no, I mean, I would love to, like after a game, just shut the place down for 2 months or whatever it is, because then by the time we come back, like we're just like we're jonesing for like to do whatever the next thing is. But yeah, we've been. I think something, for example, like a situation we're in right now where, we've done the pitching for the next game and we're waiting to hear back and we're doing all that stuff. Like, I guess that's where we take our moment, like, where we rest a little bit, but that doesn't help either because there's all that anxiety that goes along with like waiting for the next thing.
Yeah, I mean, I've been trying to chill a little bit over the last week. I mean, that's why I've been playing so much Horizon. That was why my answer to what you've been playing is usually I've not played anything. I'm too busy working.
And to really analyze this question, the first line is, after final release of your game, how much time? Okay, I'm going to stop you right there. Tell me what a final release of a game is in 2017. Like, what is that? Because
all right, don't lay into Andre. He's just asking
no. I'm not laying into him. I'm laying into the concept of
final,
of 2017, because there is the expectation from the player base that if they find something, you're supposed to update it very quickly, and then there is the post-launch content, and there is there are several things that, no matter where you are in the spectrum at this stage, final release is a very interesting term to use.
Yeah, that's true. I think there are definitely moments though where you can allow yourself to relax. But like, for example, with Volume, it was definitely a month after the initial release, right? Because we were adding stuff, fixing stuff, tweaking things. Like, in terms of actually getting kind of to a point where I would say we were quote unquote finished with that game, in terms of like, that we could even take a breath, that was at least a month after release.
I mean, it was post Christmas. Like you went in January because we had that post. We had that end of year window where you could do it. But, if you turn to me right now and you're just like, you know what, I'd really like to go to Disney World in August. Like, well, for starters, don't ever go to Florida
Disney World in August, no.
But, we do have to take our planning very seriously.
For sure.
All right. Next one, Chaps.
I like that, British.
With AAA juggernauts like Horizon, Legend of Zelda, Resident Evil, Persona 5, etc., all coming out in the beginning of the year, a period that used to be where indies could get some traction, do you see this as an issue? Regards, Michael H. Yeah. Yeah, it's scary.
They noticed how much money we were making during that period. That's what happened, right?
All those dozens and dozens of dollars.
No, they did. They noticed. I mean, that was a big thing for indies, was coming out in those summer months definitely helped us to have breathing room. Yeah. And then you had a couple of AAA games that did it and took real advantage, like the last Red Faction did really well, right? In that kind of that spring.
I always go with Mass Effect 2. Like, Mass Effect 2 was the first major title that I can remember going, like, I believe it was March, and then just because it was so fantastic, just maintaining that conversation and still getting Game of the Year. Like, after, in a time where typically, like, you're lucky if you come out in October and people remember by December to put you on the Game of the Year list. There we had that, but there's the creep. So the classic thing that please don't ever say that this is the way it still goes, because you will look ridiculous. But the classic thing was everything in Q4, right? Every major game Q4. And I would say after the first summer, like, the summer of arcade is kind of the rise of the indies. and you got that oh, okay, a few months beforehand window, and things happened in there. And there was very much the narrative at the time, as long as you're an indie, stay out of Q4, just stay away from Q4 and you'll do better. Then you start to have the creep. Then you start to have your Mass Effect 2s. You have your BioShocks, right? BioShock came out mid-August, which that's you start having the creep from both sides starting to sandwich.
Yep.
And
then you get the ones
2017
that are later as well because they've missed their Q4. So you got the February, Rockstar generally releases in kind of January, February.
So Rockstar, their strategy for many years, whether coincidence or or strategy, was the May release. They got very good at the May launch. So you had your Red Dead, you had your LA Noire. Of course I can't remember off the top of my head right now, Grand Theft Auto, but Red Dead Redemption
definitely got delayed past Christmas. I remember that. This recent couple have.
And then Red Dead Redemption is the classic case study of someone who comes out and just no one can release anything for a half year until Q4 comes along because Red Dead is just taking everyone's lunch. But yeah, so now here we are in 2017, and oh wow, Q1 alone has been. These are all Game of the Year contenders. I don't even know what the back half of the year is going to look like, because we've seen several games that, Horizon, almost any other year, Horizon's top 3, right? That's a major Game of the Year contender. Persona 5 is getting an enormous amount of buzz. Resident Evil was well received. Legend of Zelda, it's exactly like you said at the beginning of the show. This isn't a Zelda game. This is something different. This is elevated. So we're seeing a ton of stuff. We're seeing a ton of stuff there. So, is AAA now becoming, and it has been for a while, but even more so with the quality, you talk golden age of television, quality levels, with a full calendar year of quality level AAA content. How do we get through that noise? YouTubers, I guess.
I think you would have been right with that a couple of years ago. I think now, for me, the indie games I see breaking out are generally the ones that innovate. That seems to be we're back to that stage where indie games, have to be unique. They have to offer a gameplay experience you can't get anywhere else. Also, art style goes a long way. Yeah. In terms of that, I think also shorter games in the indie space seem to have a good run right now, because I think while a lot of people, are overwhelmed by those AAA games, they have maybe a week where they've got nothing to play. So look at something like Telltale game, something like Inside, those kind of games where going in, no, this is a 3-hour experience, and I'm going to have a really good time for 3 hours, but I'm going to be finished before Horizon comes out. I think that's becoming a little niche as well. So I think there are ways, but the always the challenge with games is if you're sitting down as we are and starting a new game now, you don't know what the industry is going to be in 3 years. You don't know where that's going to be different. Indie games often have shorter turnarounds than 3 years, which is great, so they can be a bit more reactive. But yeah, you've kind of got to make the game you're making and then. Kind of with the best intent you can to kind of hit what you think the market's going to be doing in X number of years, but ultimately go with it and see where it goes. That's one of the many reasons that it's impossible to be absolutely certain something's going to be a hit. Yeah,
I think there are so many challenges out there right now, and there's such a spectrum of by the time you hear this, I will have gone to PAX East and checked out the Indie Mega Booth, and just from the stuff that I've watched at the Indie Mega Booth over the last several years, the quality, it's something you've mentioned, right? Judging the BAFTAs, the quality of these games is outrageous.
Absolutely.
And that is like, yes, it pushes things forward, but it raises the bar for everyone, and it makes competition a lot tougher. That you do have independent games that get as close as possible to having it's the art direction thing that you've brought up, where we have really great independent games that have really high quality art direction, so they could just as easily, although they don't have the amount of content because they simply don't have the budgets for that level of content, but in terms of looking, they look great. They look like they could just as easily be a AAA art direction type of style of game, or a decision was made along those lines. It's getting more complicated instead of less complicated.
That's true.
And that's so to answer your question, Michael, do you see this as an issue? Yeah, it's an issue. Is there a solution? Hopefully, but it's exactly what Mike was saying, is by the time we have to go onto the field with our next project, it's 2 years. And if there's anything I could sit down right now and just rattle off for you, is how the industry changes every 2 years. So there's no consistency. We'll have to figure it out when we get there. And maybe we're completely with everyone else in the tide at that moment, or we're differentiated enough that, yay, we'll get some attention. But yeah, if you have a burning question about games, game development, or just about the complexities of the universe, you can send those questions to us via contact@bithelgames.com. That's contact@bithelgames.com, through the YouTube comments of the show, or on Twitter by pinging @MikeBithell or @Slawinski. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Bithell Games Podcast. We can always use your support, so please provide reviews and 5 stars on iTunes. iTunes. Likes and subscribes on YouTube.
iTunes, therefore I am.
And positive reinforcement on whatever other platforms you're hearing this show on, whenever possible. This podcast was produced by Jonathan Downen. We'll be back next week. I'm Alexander Slawinski. Thanks again, and get in the last word, Mike.
7.
Bleep.
Bleep.
Give me an orc bleep.
Oh, I remember that time you bleeped at me. I bleeped. Bleep. Bleep. No, use none of this, Jonathan.
Maybe.
Or maybe this is at the end.
Maybe. We'll figure it out.